And we'll start in the NFL, just 8 days removed from the Super Bowl, but the offseason's already heating up, GP. And J.J. Watt gets his release from the Texans on Friday, and it's already the main discussion of where he could land. There are a lot of potential suitors out there. The Steelers has the intrigue of his brothers. The Titans looking for a pass rusher. Does he go to Tampa Bay to join what's now the emerging hot and popular team in the league? A lot of options here. Fans have already put their money where their hope is, if you will, by donating to his foundation in increments of $99, which is awesome to see. But as you've looked at this, Gary, where do you think the most natural fit would be?
Well, you mentioned Pittsburgh, and that's an obvious great story. Both his younger brothers are there. TJ, of course, led the NFL in sacks last season. So if you're looking for the best storyline, that's probably it. But like you touched on most of the other ones. If you want to contend / ring chase, Tampa Bay makes some sense. Maybe Buffalo makes some sense. Maybe Kansas City makes some sense. If you want to stay in the state of Texas, the Cowboys could be an option. If you want to go back home to Wisconsin, Green Bay could be an option. As you mentioned, the Titans make some sense as well. So, this is a 3-time defensive player of the year who, sure, sack numbers were down last season, but he did have 14 tackles for loss. So this is still a useful player, even though he does turn 32 years old next month. Not the same guy he used to be, but again, still an impactful player when healthy, and obviously where he lands has now become one of the biggest stories in the NFL.
And Gary, I look at this, and we don't know this yet, as a situation where it's going to come down to what J.J. wants in terms of a contract, in terms of money, because he could command a pretty high salary. But the teams that have been rumored are in situations, whether it's Pittsburgh, where they're up against the cap. They've got Bud Dupree either leaving or signing long term. His brother's still waiting for his big money deal. And again, where he falls might be where he's willing to take either less money or grab as much as he can. So that's going to be intriguing and fun to see over the next few weeks and maybe months here. Carson Wentz is still a member of the Philadelphia Eagles, despite the fact that it's been reported and pretty much acknowledged that the Eagles are shopping him via trade. But now Zach Ertz, the All-Pro and Pro Bowl tight end, has been rumored to be attached or also part of trade discussions. And this brings to light the idea, Gary, does that package command what Matthew Stafford got from the Rams? 2 first-round picks as you look at it.
I would be surprised, but the intention of maybe packaging them is to try to create a better market for Carson Wentz, because right now there seems to be no market whatsoever. And yeah, that's sensible. Like if there was barely a market for Jared Goff, I'm not sure why there would be a great market for Carson Wentz. He is somebody who was benched last season in favor of a rookie who was benched in college once upon a time. So that is obviously not a great look. And then, of course, if you deal for Carson Wentz, you are locked in to 2 years, $47.4 million. So the Eagles are trying to get younger anyway. That explains being willing to move off of Ertz. And if you put them together again, maybe you get something better than you otherwise would get. But 2 first-round picks, maybe. I'd be surprised, though.
Another aspect of this, too, GP, is the fact that Zach Ertz is going to look for a new contract. That was part of the reason why he was having a rub with the Eagles organization last season, and he's coming off injury. So, again, interesting to see where these chips fall. Now let's go to college basketball, Gary. We've waited long enough. Sunday, the big story, Michigan. After that 5-game pause for COVID protocols, a long layoff. It looked like it in the first half against Wisconsin, but man, they flipped a switch in that second half and outscored them. I think it was 40-20. What was your biggest takeaway from what Michigan was able to do after all that time off and then taking on, a top 20 team in Wisconsin?
It was super impressive. Evan, before the game started, somebody asked me, what do we expect from Michigan? And I just sort of acknowledged, you have no idea, because there are examples that cut both ways. Gonzaga went on a pause for COVID-19 issues, came back, immediately blasted Iowa. Then there's St. Louis that looked like a top 25 team, went on a COVID-19 pause, came back and immediately took 2 bad losses. So you really don't know how the layoff is going to impact a college basketball team. And as you accurately pointed out early, it looked like it was going to negatively impact Michigan. They were really bad in the first half, allowed Wisconsin to shoot above 50% from the field. But in the second half, they turned it on. Hunter Dickinson, the freshman, finished with 15 rebounds. They held Wisconsin to just 20 points. And to be off for 23 days, come back and win a road game against a quality opponent, again, big stuff for Juwan Howard's program. I think you can reasonably say right now that if you take Gonzaga, Baylor, put them over here as the two undefeateds, the next best team in the country is the Michigan Wolverines.
Welcome back to Time to Shine. Let's dive into some college hoops. On Saturday on CBS during the bracket preview show, we saw what the NCAA was looking at as things stands right now in terms of their top 16, with Gonzaga, Baylor, Michigan, and Ohio State rounding out the top 4. So, Gary, we know the 16 for the NCAA as of Saturday, but I want to know your top 9 and a Schein 9 here. So kick us off with number 9 as it stands on the Gary Parrish ranking system.
Well, I first things first, I did think the selection committee did a pretty good, if not great job of getting these teams in just about the correct order. So I didn't have any big quibbles, but specifically to your question, number 9 for me, that would be the Virginia Cavaliers. Evan, they got off to a rough start, third day of the season, lost on a neutral court to a San Francisco team that's just okay. Then they got blasted by Gonzaga, and people started to knock them off the radar a little bit, but they're 11-1 since losing to the Zags. They're now 8-3 in the first 2 quadrants that the NCAA uses to evaluate basketball teams. Virginia might go from a team that took a terrible loss in the opening week of the season to a team that could compete for a number 1 seed in the NCAA tournament.
Defending champs coming in at number 9. At number 8, you have the Oklahoma Sooners, fresh off a double OT win over West Virginia.
We've known for a while that Lon Kruger is one of the best coaches in the sport, and he has Hall of Fame credentials. He is reminding everybody of that this season. These Sooners, they were picked 6th in the Big 12 preseason poll, 0 votes in the preseason AP poll, and now if the NCAA tournament started today, they would be a 2 seed.
Number 7, Roll Tide, Alabama. Nate Oates' squad put up 115 points in their win on Saturday. This is not a football school for the next couple months.
I'm not predicting it, but it is not crazy to think that Alabama could win a football and men's basketball championship in the same season. I love this team. The style of play is very difficult to deal with. They play at a tempo that ranks in the top 10 in the country. They are number 1 in adjusted defensive efficiency. So what does that tell you? They're going to really guard you. They're going to play super fast. And on average, they're going to launch 33s a game. They're committed to the style. When they're hot, you're dead. When they're not, they're good enough defensively to still beat you. I think this is probably the most dangerous team in the country, not named Gonzaga or Baylor.
That's a great combination. Number 6, the Houston Cougars, who have been dominant in the American with an 11-2 record at this point.
Yeah, Kelvin Sampson is operating without 4 of the top 5 scorers from last season's team that won the AAC regular season title, and it's like it does not even matter. He's got a top 10 team once again. He's on his way to his 3rd straight conference championship, and the preseason AAC Player of the Year, Caleb Mills, left the program after 4 games, transferred to Florida State. In what world are you supposed to lose the preseason conference player of the year and it just not matter to you? That is not a normal thing, but that is exactly what's happening at Houston right now.
Number 5, you have Illinois. And as a guy who's trying to catch up on college basketball, I see they've won 5 straight, but what is it about this team that has them in your top 5?
Well, the key for Illinois came, 2 days before the deadline for underclassmen to withdraw from the NBA draft, because that's when Ayo Dosunmu and Kofi Coburn both withdrew, decided to come back to school, and immediately Illinois was going to be considered a national championship contender. They've had their ups and downs, but they look the part right now. That's probably the best inside-outside duo in college basketball. Dosunmu is now pushing Luka Garza for both Big Ten Player of the Year and National Player of the Year. If you are filling out a bracket and you want to identify a team that's got 2 great college players that can guide a team to a Final Four, Illinois is a great place to look.
creeping in here to the top four. So your top four seeds as Gary Parrish sees them, and you have Ohio State here slotted at number 4. They did what they needed to do. They beat a team they should beat in Indiana over the weekend.
Yeah, Ohio State was just barely in the preseason AP poll, 23rd in the country. And now, again, if the tournament started today, they would be a number 1 seed. Chris Holtmann, he has coached in 5 straight NCAA tournaments dating back to his days at Butler. He took the job at Ohio State, immediately elevated it, overachieved in his first season, continues to do so, and this might be his best team in Columbus that he's had so far, undeniably a national championship contender.
And number 3, Michigan. We touched on what they've been through and what they were able to do on Sunday, but why do you feel good about putting this team here, despite the fact that they've been away from the game for so long?
You know, I'm real reliant on data and computer numbers, but I also have eyeballs. And when you watch Michigan play, they really look the part. They play hard. They play together. They seem to enjoy playing with each other. They've got a star freshman in Hunter Dickinson who is producing like one of the best freshmen in the country. Again, had 15 rebounds in that Sunday win at Wisconsin. You know, everybody has sort of put Gonzaga and Baylor at the top of the sport from the jump, and they belonged there, and they're still there. But if you're looking for the best team in the country, not named Gonzaga or Baylor, I really do believe that is the Michigan Wolverines. They're still sitting here as a one-loss team, and clearly the class, I think, of the Big Ten, although Ohio State and Illinois right behind them.
So no real mystery here, Gary. You laid it out. I mean, you've got Baylor here at 2. Give us a sense, though, because Baylor's been in this spot before with these type of teams that are just physically imposing, play such great ball on both ends. But what's different about this team, if something is different?
I don't. They're just as good as they were last season, except just better. A year older. The players are better. Jared Butler, who was an All-American last season, is operating at a higher level right now. Scott Drew just took a great team and made it even greater, and they are still sitting here with a 0 in the loss column. We expected, I think, Gonzaga to have a 0 in the loss column on February 15th. I'm not sure many people thought Baylor also would. The Bears are currently shut down on a COVID pause. It's unclear how many games they're going to get left, but at this point, it appears more likely than not that they will also be undefeated on Selection Sunday, and then perhaps the number 1 overall seed in the NCAA tournament, because they're going to have an opportunity to add more signature wins before Selection Sunday. Gonzaga simply will not.
Well, the 1 seed as of 1 overall, I should say, as of Saturday, according to the committee, was Gonzaga, and you have Gonzaga here at 1. So are there any potential speed bumps that would knock them down? I mean, you mentioned that Baylor does have a shot to grab that number 1 overall seed.
Listen, I would never say never because, you know, it's college basketball. Upsets happen every day. But at this point, given the way Gonzaga has operated and what's left on the schedule, it's hard to imagine them getting caught. This is a team that I've had ranked number 1 since last March when I was asked to do a preseason top 25-1 for the 2020-21 season. In the offseason, a projected first-team All-American left the team to pursue professional opportunities. I kept Gonzaga number 1. That's how much I thought they were better than the rest of the field, and they've done nothing to let me down. Terrific offensively, terrific defensively, future Hall of Fame coach, 2 future first-round NBA draft picks on the roster. This is not just the best team in the country right now. It is operating like one of the best college basketball teams we've seen in modern history.